Okay, let me first start by saying this is an honor to be here today and be surrounded by all of you guys. Maya Angelou was one of the greats, and I have always, in my mind, she's always been a mentor to me, and I just wish I could have met her. I'll be speaking or reciting the poem Still I Rise, written by her. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me through the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I have oil wells pumping in my living room, just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high. Still, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Oh, don't take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may even cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. From the past that is rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that is wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of a slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to be such a great part of a special occasion in the life of our residential campus community. Thanks especially to Nia for beginning the blessing of this building using the words of its namesake. Nia, you represent hundreds of students that Dr. Angelou impacted with her wisdom, creativity, drive, and eloquence, and we thank you for being a part of this ceremony. When I was thinking about today and the words that I could use to describe my gratitude for those who helped bring this building from an idea to the structure that we're present in today, I'm reminded of these words from Dr. Angelou. Home is a refuge, not only from the world, but a refuge from my worries. I like beautiful things around me. I like to be beautiful because it delights my eyes and my soul is lifted up. Many present in this room today have contributed to the building of this beautiful place. And it's my hope that when every student, family, and visitor to Wake Forest walk through the front doors, that they feel an immense sense of comfort in this special refuge and that their souls will be filled with the warmth of home. This building represents a natural bookend to South Hall and the buildings that make up a portion of the South Campus community along Jasper Memory Lane. And while its stately structure provides a home this semester for upper-class students, it will become the newest community for first-year students beginning in the fall of 2017. The work could not have been accomplished without a number of folks whose time and dedication to getting it right made a real difference in this project. Dr. Hatch, Vice President Rue, Executive Vice President Milam, and the entire cabinet, this project would not have begun without your understanding of the need for this space, your thoughtful reflection of our design, and ultimately the decision to honor a residence hall by naming it after such a prominent figure on our campus and the national stage. I sincerely thank you for that and much more. The team of architects from Hanbury have patiently and with great humor led us through this journey to make our vision a reality. They truly understand the form, function, and beauty that are trademarks of the Neo-Georgian architecture that make us uniquely Wake. Their ability to weave into the campus landscape gorgeous structures that meet the needs of our modern student, yet fit so perfectly into the overall campus look and feel, is simply amazing. Your first building on this campus, South Hall, finally has a sister building. And for that and more, you remain honorary Demon Deacons. And Jane Barea from Walter Robs. Who knew that when you and I were selecting the finishes for this incredible building, that we ended up honoring Dr. Angelou by using her favorite color throughout, claret. Serendipity and destiny collide. And to our partners at Frank L. Bloom, you've done it again. Through rain, heat, general delays, and even snow, you did it. We asked a tremendous amount of you, and you met the timeline and the demand that our students need, and now they are the beneficiaries of your hard work and dedication. We are truly fortunate to have local partners that care as much about our work and our campus community as you do. So thank you for providing a home for our students and the Office of Residence Life and Housing. Sam, Keith, and John, and the entire crew at Facilities and Campus Services, your new neighbors across the street are forever grateful for your collaboration and for listening as we talked incessantly about the importance of the look and feel of this place that students will call theirs for decades. We did it. To my Residence Life and Housing family, we have arrived. We're home. From the moment we stepped into our office on the very first day and took a deep breath, we could feel it. This place is home, not just for our students, but for the work of our office. So thank you for your dedication to making the residential community on our campus the very best for all Wake Foresters. I couldn't do it without you. And to the family and friends of Dr. Maya Angelou, thank you. Thank you for carrying on the legacy of such a creative, influential spirit and helping us to celebrate the blessing of this space for our students and for generations of Wake Foresters to come. And finally, I have said it before, most people think of buildings as just that, bricks and mortar and steel and mechanical parts, but it is much more than that to me. This building represents a place for intellectual discourse, for friendships forged and memories made, and most especially a lifetime love affair with Wake Forest University. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of this wonderful moment in history for our residential community. And now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Nathan Hatch.
When I was installed at Wake Forest as president some 11 years ago, I had one great surprise. At a given event, Professor Maya Angelou spoke to all of us, and then she turned to me and sang. And you knew what she would sing, about being a rainbow in the clouds. And that was one of the most memorable experiences in my life, and it's a challenge that will forever be with me. Thank you today for joining us to dedicate the Maya Angelou Hall, our newest residence facility. It's wonderful to see so many of Maya's friends, former students, family, and colleagues. We're especially honored to have members of her family and friends, including Mr. Elliott Jones, Mrs. Valerie Simpson Ashford, Dr. Gloria Herndon, Mrs. Jacqueline Sales, Mr. Irving Bergee, and Dr. George Faison. And we welcome all of you who are joining us via live stream. Today is not simply a day to open a building, it is also a moment to celebrate and remember the life and influence of a dear colleague, educator, and friend. It's time to recapture the richness of community, the importance of fellowship, the value of all of us, all the signatures of Dr. Angelou's life. It was almost 44 years to the day when Maya Angelou came to Wake Forest for the first time. On February 20th, 1973, a Tuesday night, in a crowded room of students in DeTamble Auditorium. Her lecture focused on the significance of Black literature in America. At 9 p.m., after she had read poetry, sang, and offered dramatic readings, she received a standing ovation, but the event didn't stop. Students were not ready to stop the conversation. Dr. Angelou graciously joined a group of students, about 100 students, who stayed there till past midnight talking. Dr. Angelou remembered that night, and she said later, though the students seemed to be addressing me, in reality, they were speaking to each other. From her first moment on this campus, Maya Angelou brought people together. That February night was the start of a decades-long relationship with this university. Here she engaged us with difficult questions, with deep thoughts, and meaningful exchanges. She helped us to see what we had in common instead of how we were different. She reminded us that we're all human, that we have the power to love, to laugh, forgive, and to rise. Today we celebrate Maya Angelou, a towering figure at Wake Forest and across the world, because she so valued all people. As a great artist, she created. As a great citizen, she advocated. As a great teacher, she inspired. And as a great human, she loved. We honor her and carried forth her legacy when we walk with courage, share hope in affliction, laugh in the midst of despair, and learn to love unconditionally. To honor one of our finest, we are delighted to dedicate Maya Angelou Hall. Thank you for being with us today. And now I welcome Penny Rue, our Vice President for Campus Life, to the podium. Penny.
Thank you, President Hatch. Let me add my welcome to so many of you who have joined us for today's dedication of Maya Angelou Hall, including those that are watching on live stream in remote locations. And let me also add to Donna's great thanks, the many individuals and departments who made this facility possible. So many of whom are in the room, but many could not be. Like most big endeavors, there are unseen heroes and countless hours that went into this building, and today we express our gratitude. As many of you know, Wake Forest is a campus that is actively practicing what it means to live in community together. Therefore, we really felt it fitting to sustain the legacy of Maya Angelou, one who so enjoyed bringing people together through a residence hall. Think about it. It's where our students spend the most time. It is the place our alumni most often cite as their most centered memories. It is the space where friendships are forged, where conversations still stretch long into the night, and where understanding is truly realized. I think you know that Maya Angelou Hall is the first building on Wake Forest campus to be named for an African American. And the second to be named for a female professor. As Donna mentioned, this facility will house first-year students. Imagine their first months at Wake Forest in this space, meeting new and interesting people, perhaps having a classroom experience right down the hall, walking underneath the threshold, the legacy of Dr. Maya Angelou, inspired to find their own unique voice. Maya Angelou engaged in a lifelong and fearless pursuit of what inspired her. She realized success on her own terms and possessed the courage to care about all people. My favorite quote resonates here. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. This space is the latest way that we here at Wake continue to build relationships with one another, engage with people who might be different from us, but who are no less valued, and make our community better by being ourselves. Dr. Angelou chose to make her home here at Wake Forest, and as we welcome our newest students into our community, our hope is that many will find their first true home at Wake Forest in Maya Angelou Hall. So it is now my pleasure to welcome Dr. Melissa Harris Perry, our Maya Angelou Presidential Chair.
I came to Wake Forest in many ways because of Dr. Angelou. I had a few different options, but it was because she was a professor here, and I thought maybe one day I would have an opportunity to have a course with her. I came back to Wake Forest because of Dr. Angelou. I came back because I think that I'd always come back, but I thought, well, I'll come back in another 10 or 15 years, but I wanted to come back while she was still living. I thought, I have more to learn. She passed within weeks of my return, and I remember thinking there was plenty of room for both of us, and I was irritated that she would leave. But her departure means that my professorship carries her name. It is an extraordinary gift for her to have given. On the day that I graduated from Wake Forest, Dr. Angelou invited me to her home, and like so many of us who were her students, who still are her students, who will always be her students, I always her students. I went to her home and she was there on the patio with Betty Shabazz. I think about what it means to have been a young black woman being launched into the world with the words of Dr. Angelou and Betty Shabazz. What that puts on your life, what that requires of you. I took courses in her home. I sat at her table. The first big tent I knew was in the backyard of Valley Road. To go to Thanksgiving, where she would invite Valerie Simpson, but also her undergraduate research advisor, research assistant. That is a big tent. Dr. Angelou made us all feel at home in her presence. She made us feel at home even when Wake Forest did not feel like home. I'm looking at Beth Hopkins, who used to also make us feel at home when Wake Forest did not always feel like home. And so it is extraordinary to have a residence hall. It makes sense to have a residence hall. It makes sense for it to be home, for it to be a gathering place, for it to be a place where people will rest and eat and argue and learn and be together and make friends and come together across difference and find a way to be home. And hopefully, where on the last day, like on the first day, they will come back and be launched. And maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the road, they'll come back to Wake Forest because it will call us back home, just as Maya Angelou called me back home, back to our mother so dear. Thank you to Wake Forest and to Dr. Angelou for creating home.
Welcome home. I'm Elliott Jones, but Elliott to most of you. This is like Thanksgiving in February, am I right? Like, I thought I'd be nervous, and I see the black and gold, which reminds me of my high school, so I was like, okay. Then I look at this crowd, and I'm like, oh, this is half of my family. I'm good to go over here. But I've learned something from my grandmother. You always got to keep an ace up your sleeve. So I have remarks from my father, Guy Johnson, which I will read at this time. The family of Dr. Maya Angelou is very appreciative of the Wake Forest decision to name a residence hall in her honor. I am positive that she is looking down on us from her celestial heights and smiling upon us. Wake Forest University held an important position in my mother's life because it gave her an opportunity to see that she was not simply a writer who teaches, but foremost, she was a teacher who writes. Each new batch of students she received filled her with excitement, and she looked forward to the challenge of breaking through those students' barriers and assumptions to make them aware of new connections. She used to tell me, my job is to stimulate their gray matter, and to do that, I gotta keep their dendrites wiggling. I want them to think thoughts they never thought before, to make new connections, to assess, deduce, adduce, and when appropriate, induce information in new ways as a result of our time together. Education was extremely important in my grandmother's life. She saw education as a door that opened into the future of unforeseen opportunities. She used to say, all knowledge is spendable currency, simply depending upon the market. While she herself did not pursue a degree through an academic institution, she nonetheless spent her life educating herself. She read 2 to 3 books a week on a wide range of subjects, from the time she was a child until her mid-80s, when her eyesight started to fail. I know this to be the case because when I was growing up, television was limited to 5 hours a week. Now I know where we got it from. So I was expected to report on books that I read. She often discussed the books she read with me, and as I matured, her books were passed on to me. When my mother left California to come to teach at Wake Forest, she was saddened by a recent failed marriage, and she was looking for a place to heal. Initially, the family was concerned that she was moving so far away from her support, but the passing of time proved that the concerns were unfounded. Wake Forest and Winston-Salem opened their arms to my grandmother and enfolded her in their southern warmth. The first time I visited here, I discovered that she was surrounded by a community. There was my Aunt Dolly McPherson. We could clap for these people, it's all good. We could clap for them. The Wattses, the Wilsons, the Haynes, the Uries, the Hopkinses, the Haponics, the Cherns, where's my reverend? There we go. The Cherns, the Eatons, the Kaywoods, Elizabeth Phillips, Ava Rodwick, the Newells, and the phenomenally charming Miss Ruth Julian. Now, there were many more who deserve mentioning, but my aging memory fails me. This was written by my father. In addition, there are many who worked for my mother, from Miss Garris to Mrs. Clay, and if you would indulge me, because I know she hates when I do this, the amazing Miss Stuckey. Yeah. These good people are among the many who helped my mother construct a sense of belonging and home. It is a gift and a blessing to find a sense of belonging when you move to a new place. Wake Forest University and the people of Winston-Salem helped create this sense with my grandmother. The university awarded her the Reynolds Chair, which allows her to touch the lives of nearly 3 decades of students, doing what she cherished most, teaching. And I know there's some of you in this room. In closing, the Angelou Jones family is extremely grateful for Wake Forest University in memorializing our matriarch's name on the campus with this new resident hall building. And I can honestly say, guys, it feels good to be home. Thank you.
President Hatch. When it looks like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. You know, I am so full of joy, happiness, and the spirit that you put in the walls and the ceilings of this wonderful place. I know that the students that come through here are gonna feel all the love and the spirit of Maya Angelou. And that's what makes me so happy, that it meant so much to you, because it means so much to all of us who are considered to be under her umbrella. Who's under Maya Angelou's umbrella? Just stand up if you were raised under that umbrella. All right now, that looks like the whole room to me. I have to say a special thank you to George Faison, because it's because of him that we, Nick Ashford and I, found Maya. We begged him for an intro. Said, please let us go to North Carolina on your coattail, because we wanted to meet her. Nick thought she was so sexy. He saw her on television, and not only were her words enough to grab you, but just her essence, her very being, just reached out for you. And so, George, I don't care what you do in this life, I can never be mad. Because we got that invite and we became family. So thank you, George and T. This is a song that Nick Ashford and I wrote. I think it speaks to what she's done for all of us and what she wants us to do, to continue to reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can reach out and touch, why don't you touch somebody's hand? Make this world a better place. Thank you, Bobby. If you can reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place. That's what she did for us. If you can reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place. If you can, just try. Take a little time out of your busy day to give encouragement to someone who's lost the way. Would I be talking to a stone if I asked you to share a problem that's not your own? We can change things if we start giving. Why don't you reach out? You got it. Somebody's hand. Make this world a... We got a lot to do, y'all. we can.
This ain't fair. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Don't you feel it? Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, she existed. She existed. We can be and be better, for she existed. For she existed. When Dr. Angelou passed away on May 28th, 2014, many of us wondered how we could go on, literally, how we could go on without her magnificent light in our lives. As she was to thousands of people around the world, she was my teacher, my mentor, my coach, my chastiser cheerleader. Did you ever play that role for you? Yeah, chastiser cheerleader. I need that on a t-shirt. Whenever she needed to be, she was that person. She was always a mother. And I have a biological mother who I love with all of my heart. But Dr. Angelou just still had another special place as a mother, and so much more. So yes, we wondered how we could go on, but today I know that she knew she could finally be free of the physical pain that she endured in this world, because she knew she had put her spirit in us and that we would continue. So Elliott, you were her grandbaby. You grew up at her knees, soaking up her wisdom, her grace, and her eloquence. Thank you for being here to speak on behalf of her son, Mr. Guy Johnson, and the entire Angelou Johnson Jones family. A family, I might add, that has graciously embraced so many thousands of aunties and uncles and siblings around the world. I mean, who hosts 500 family members for Thanksgiving dinner for 30 years? 500 family members for 30 years. But that was the magnificence of Dr. Angelou. And Miss Valerie Simpson Ashford. Everybody wants to call you Miss Valerie Ashford Simpson, but you know who we're talking about, right? The very moment that I heard that there would be a baby grand piano in this residence hall, I knew she would want you, she would expect you to be here because you're her daughter. And I knew she would want you to be here to bless this space. So when I told Miss Stuckey said, let me get my phone number and give her a call. So, you know, Miss Stuckey, I said, you go ahead, Miss Stuckey. And I'm so grateful that she made that connection, because now you have channeled her essence to fill this space with her spirit. Yes, thank you. And thank you to the amazing Miss Lydia Stuckey. Please stand up so that they can get you. Miss Stuckey, it is because of your support that we are able to welcome at least 100 of Dr. Angelou's universal family here over the course of this weekend. We could not have done it without you, and we thank you. We all thank you, and I'm certain I can speak on behalf of the entire Universal family. Thank you for being her trusted assistant, her friend, her ride or die, her road dog for 20 plus years. You know, when you plan an event with Miss Stuckey, you hear a lot of stories. So I'm telling you, over the last month, we have been on a roller coaster, crying one minute and laughing the next, with all of the marvelous road trip adventures that she shared about her time with Dr. Angelou and Mr. Bryant on that bus. So we've done a lot of crying in the planning of this event, but today, after standing in this magnificent place, I have joy in my heart at last. Because on this day, Friday, February 17th, 2017, you, all of you, and we, the Wake Forest University family, have made this the new home for Dr. Maya Angelou. So family, friends, welcome home.
The blessing of this space began when it was decided that Dr. Angelou's name would be printed on its walls. So we pause now to speak a more formal blessing, asking God, who chooses to make your home here with humanity, we ask that your presence would rest and abide in this space, so that all who inhabit this space will feel both companionship with others and with you. We ask that this space would be blessed with divine protection, that evil would not be able to cross the threshold, and that injustice would not find sanctuary here. When the first occupants come, we pray that love would move in with them. And when they leave, we ask that they depart with remnants of Dr. Angelou's spirit, her wisdom, with a spirit of knowledge, of curiosity, and of boldness. For some, it will be their home away from home. For others, it will be their only home. May this space be blessed with coziness. May it house the brokenhearted, be a place of respite to the discouraged, and simultaneously large enough to contain the joy of accomplishment. That friendship would be this building's bricks, and that neighborly love would be the mortar that holds it all together. May the sound of laughter echo through these halls and purify it daily. In the agreement of heart and of mind, we declare that this space is indeed blessed. May it be so. Amen. Amen.
Before we move to the ribbon cutting portion of the ceremony today, I'd like to take a moment and recognize the lead designer on the project, Mr. Wesley Page. If you could stand. Mr. Page is a principal with Hanbury Architects and a very talented artist. He has drawn a rendering of the building, which is framed to my left. So on behalf of Hanbury Architects and the Office of Residence Life and Housing at Wake Forest, we'd like to present this original print signed by Mr. Wesley Page to the family of Dr. Angelou. I'd like to ask our ribbon cutting participants to please step forward over here to my right. While they are taking their places, I'd like to remind that our guests are going to be able to have some refreshments just outside in the lobby area, and they'll be served after our ceremony, and tours for the building will begin there as well. So please look for Residence Life and Housing staff who are seated over here to my right to begin the tour. They will be leading us throughout the various spaces in the building. Okay, so if everyone can take your place.